In this video, I'm going to be talking about the difference quotient, which is an important concept for those of you that are going to move on to calculus someday. And what you'll see, especially in the second problem, is the algebra in these can get a little challenging, more long than anything. But these are just two problems, and there's several other functions where you could run into some things that are relatively challenging. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And by the way, the difference quotient is what you're going to be using when you discuss the derivative in calculus, which is one of the two major topics that you'll discuss throughout calculus. All right, so it says for a function f of x, we say its difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. All right, so on 4, we're going to find the difference quotient. So I'm going to do it in 3 steps, and I'll show you how this works. So number 1, this function is pretty simple. Whatever your input is, you're going to multiply it by 3 and subtract 5. So basically, whatever my input is, it goes here and here. I'm replacing x with whatever the input is. So keep that in mind as we get started here. So if we want to find f of x plus h, our input is x plus h, so we're going to multiply 3 times x plus h, that's my input, minus 5. So we're going to want to distribute here. We'll get 3x plus 3h minus 5. And so that's f of x plus h. So next, I want to find f of x plus h minus f of x. So notice what we're doing. We're just putting this together. We're now working on the numerator. All right, so we already know what f of x plus h is. We just found that. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. We're just putting in this, which is f of x plus h. And then minus f of x, so that'll be minus 3x minus 5. Notice f of x is 3x minus 5. Now recall that when we subtract a binomial, we do need parentheses. So let's finish simplifying this. This is 3x plus 3h minus 5 minus 3x plus 5. So be careful with that sign of the 5. So now something nice happens here. Notice the 3x's are opposites, 3x and minus 3x. You've got a minus 5 and a plus 5. Those are opposites. And so we're just left with 3h. So finally, we're ready to find the difference quotient. It's f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. We already found the numerator, which is 3h, and our denominator is h. And so all of this just equals 3. All right, let's move on to the next problem. So I would encourage you to maybe give this a try, but I'll just warn you, the algebra is a little bit, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's a little bit more involved. All right, so let's see how you did. So first of all, we want to find f of x plus h. Now keep in mind here, there's 2 places where we're going to be plugging in our input. Sometimes students forget to put it in both. So I'm going to go ahead and make a shell. It'll be 2 times my input squared plus 3 times my input minus 1. So I'm just rewriting this and replacing x with parentheses. Now I put a lot of room there because I'm plugging in a binomial x plus h. So let's go ahead and plug in x plus h. Now you got to be careful here that you use the order of operations. We don't start by multiplying by 2. We're going to want to actually square this x plus h first. And so that's what I'm going to do off to the side here. So I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this. I'll get x squared plus xh plus another xh. Notice it doesn't matter which variable I put first. These are the same. And I like to write them so that they're in the same order. And then h times h is h squared. Now notice we have 2 like terms here. We have a 1xh and another 1xh, that makes 2. And so we get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. So now I'm ready to plug that into my equation. Don't forget, we still have plus. I'm going to go ahead and distribute here. You can see I just did this here. And then don't forget the minus 1. And so now I need to distribute the 2. You get 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared. And let's bring down those other 3 terms. And so this is f of x plus h. And notice none of those are like terms. So next we want to find the numerator, f of x plus h minus f of x. Well, we just found f of x plus h. That's all of this. And so we're just replacing that right here. That's my f of x plus h minus f of x, which we know is 2x squared plus 3x minus 1. So we need to distribute that negative. So I'm going to rewrite all this good stuff. And one of the things we found last time is our f function, each of the terms canceled, there were 2 last time, canceled with 2 of the terms in the other part. And in fact, in this case, all 3 of these terms are going to cancel. Notice the 2x squared and the minus 2x squared. We got a minus 3x and a plus 3x, a minus 1 and a 1. If you don't have that happen, then that's a good sign that you've probably made a mistake. So we end up with 4xh plus 2h squared plus 3h. Notice you want to be neat, otherwise you could end up missing something. And so finally we're ready for that last step. So our difference quotient, f of x plus h minus f of x, all over h, is going to equal 4xh plus 2h squared plus 3h all over h. Again, we already found our numerator. It's right here. And so now what we want to do is break this into 3 fractions. It'll be 4xh over h plus 2h squared over h plus 3h over h. And so finally, we're going to get 4x. Now remember, 2h squared or h squared over h, that's just going to be h. Basically, one of these h's will cancel with the other h, and we'll be left with 1 h in the numerator, so 2 times h, and then we'll end up with 3 at the end there. All right, so you can see we did a fair amount of algebra there, and so that's how you find the difference quotient. And that's the end of this video.